Hello again. How are you doing today? I hope all is well. One thing that you need to understand about becoming an entrepreneur or being a prospective entrepreneur is that you always have to be prepared. And one of the things that I'd like to talk to you about being prepared with is an answer to this question. What is the market size? And the reason why I'm asking you this question is because I guarantee that it will be asked of you from any potential investor, from a banker, from anyone who is willing to give you time or monetary resources. They want to know what the opportunity is in terms of a market size. So let's start out with the simple definition of what do I mean when I say market sizing. So market sizing refers to the combined revenue unit volume, sales, in a specific market area. Or you could look at it as the potential number of customers that you can use to estimate that unit volume. So the reason why this is so important is because a company or an investor will require you to understand and be able to quickly come up with the answer to what is the total available market for a particular geographic area. So it's really important for you to be able to quickly have a tool at hand to be able to come up with the answer to that question. And I encourage you to come up with the answer to that question prior to having any sort of communication with a possible investor. So one way of doing this that I share with my students and that we practice in my classes is something called a Fermi market sizing estimate. And basically what a Fermi estimate is simply what you may have heard of is a back of the envelope estimate. And what this was developed by Enrico Fermi, and he, many years ago, and he is what we in the marketing biz called the father of solving math problems. And not just any math problem, but a math problem that we will never, ever really, truly know the exact answer to. And guess what? That's okay. So an example that's often used when we're talking about Enrico Fermi is if somebody were to ask you, as of right now, how many leaves are on the trees in Central Park? Well, if you think about that, the number of leaves in Central Park will always change. You have new buds popping open. You have leaves that are coming off the trees. You have people trimming the trees. There is never one answer. So the thought about solving an impossible math question like that is very similar to what is the market size? We'll never know exactly because people come and go and some people change their preferences. But what we need to do is think about how do we estimate a reasonable assumption for what that estimate is. And the trick to this is it just has to be sensible. It's based on logic, and it's asking the question of what we're seeking. So to perform a Fermi-style estimate, I would like for you to think of a product idea that you have, or use the one you're using if you're taking my class, and do what I call a back-of-the-envelope estimate, meaning what's your best guess? And by doing this, you show a logical series of steps and estimates you take to arrive at the estimate. It's never going to be 100%. Remember that? But I want you to convince me that based on your final estimate, you've chosen a reasonably sized segment to target. So how would I go about doing this? Okay, I'm going to have you work on a problem now. So the Fermi problem that I would like you to do right now, get your pencil and paper, your calculator, your smartphone out, and remember a Fermi problem is a problem that seems nearly impossible to solve at first glance. So the problem that I'd like you to think about right now, let's say you live in St. George, Utah. And you're thinking about investing in a car wash. Maybe I want to start up a car wash. There's far too many car washes in St. George, Utah, but it makes for a good exercise. So my problem for you is estimate the number of paid car wash employees there are in St. George, Utah. So take a few minutes and logically think about the types of steps you would take to answer that question. All right, so back at you. How'd you go about doing this? Did you arrive at an estimate? Well, there's lots of ways you can do this. There's Chamber of Commerce lists you could go to. You could Google how many car washes there are in Utah. But probably the first thing you'd want to do is figure out how many car washes are there in this city. And then from there, you might look at what are the hours of operation? Are they open 7 days a week? Or are they open 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day? How long does it take to wash a car? Meaning, how many people are going to go through that car wash per day? How often do consumers even wash their cars? Do they ever wash their cars in St. George, Utah? I think they probably do because there's a number of car washes here. And what percentage of auto owners actually go to a car wash? How many do it themselves? So there's lots of different ways. That's just a few questions at how you could arrive at that answer. But remember, coming up with an answer of sizing a market or trying to figure out how many employees you're going to have or any other business related question that seems impossible because it could possibly be changing all of the time, I want you to just learn how to logically come up with 3 or 4 steps to come up with a reasonable answer to that question on the fly. So if you're having a meeting or a conversation with a potential investor, figure out the 3 to 5 steps you would take to come up with that answer. And if it seems reasonable, you can then go back and do some segmentation analysis or some deeper market analysis. But you want to know, is it good or bad or reasonable? So that's why we do the Fermi exercise. I also have my students do one on a soft drink provider here in southern Utah called Swig. And Swig provides sodas of a variety of flavors, and they cost anywhere from $3 to $5 for basically the same soda you could get at the gas station for about 99 cents. But this place is so busy. There's always a line full of cars like you would see at a Starbucks drive-thru just to pay for soda. So I would ask my students, estimate the number of sodas Swig sells in 1 month. So that would be a nice revenue number. And again, they're going to come up with a logical explanation. Well, how many Swig stores are there in a particular market? And how many days a week are they open? How many cars do you typically see go through there in an hour, you would estimate? What's the average price of what you would anticipate an average soda to cost? So it's really not that complicated of a math problem, but one that you will want to be able to do and create on the fly, on the back of the envelope, so you can have that good conversation with an investor, with somebody that you might be just bouncing ideas off of, is this really a good market to explore or not? So here is your task. So if you are taking my class, what I'd like you to do is to create a Fermi estimate for the market size of the target audience for your product idea. And you are going to do this activity as part of your segmentation, targeting, and positioning assignment that you have for this course. So I want you to go through and just tell me what the estimated market is that you're pursuing, what the size of it is. It could be a number of people, it could be in total revenue, but tell me how not only what that estimate is, but how you arrived at it. Again, we know the answer is impossible, but we want it to be reasonable and logical. So the next time you have somebody ask you the question, what's the opportunity? you are now prepared to do a 5-minute or less Fermi estimate to create a reasonable market size that you can share. Take care, everyone.